Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing well, but I'm curious, Piers, how many intros have you done using people who successfully defended themselves with a gun? I mean, I understand where you come from.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. How many people of the 3 million who own AR-15 military-style assault rifles in this country have ever used them to defend themselves?
I can't get you a number, but I'll be glad to try to find a number.
I haven't heard of any.
But let me ask this.
But here's my point. Here's my point. I haven't heard of any. So the answer comes back at you. Why does anybody need, in civilian life, a weapon that belongs in a military battlefield, as General Stanley McChrystal and General Colin Powell have both said?
First of all, the civilian AR-15 is not an automatic weapon. It's illegal to have an automatic weapon of that kind. It is a semi-automatic weapon. Second, your last interview I thought was very revealing. The uncle of the young man kept saying, "We don't know." And I want to suggest to you that a great deal of what's going on here is everybody who wants to ban guns woke up immediately and said, "I've got a bill. It's the bill I've had for 10 years. Let me bring it back in." The fact is, we don't know about a lot of these things. Mental health is a big part of it. I've challenged my liberal friends. Let's have hearings in Chicago. Chicago has very strict gun control and was the murder capital of the U.S. last year. Over 500 people were killed. Now, why is it the people who are for gun control don't want to go to Chicago to find out why gun control has failed so miserably?
Why are automatic weapons banned in America?
Because they were felt to be too dangerous. They came out of the 1930s.
Why are they too dangerous?
Because of the high volume of fire, which you don't get from a semi-automatic weapon.
Okay, do you know how many bullets the shooter at Aurora, James Holmes, fired per minute with his AR-15?
No.
Okay, he had a magazine that can fire 100 bullets in 1 minute. How many more bullets do you need to fire, Mr. Speaker, before that qualifies as a dangerous killing machine by your criteria?
Well, by my criteria, and then this goes back to a question of what you respect, Piers. I think the Second Amendment really matters. I think if you look at the new law in New York State,
so do I. But what I want to know,
clearly.
So do I. But what I want to know is where do you draw the line? You just said this rule was set on automatic weapons back in the 30s. I put it to you that an AR-15 military-style assault weapon, as used in the last 5 mass shootings,
it's not a military-style assault
but
weapon.
it can fire 100 bullets a minute, Mr. Speaker.
Look, this is lovely propaganda.
What else do you call them?
This is lovely
machine
propaganda.
that can fire 100 bullets in a minute. What else do you call it?
I would simply say to you that millions of people, by your own definition, own an AR-15. They are law-abiding. They think it is their right under our Constitution to own it. And don't kid the rest of us. The people who are just on would ban all guns if they could get away with it. You look at the New York State law that Governor Cuomo just pushed. Basically, it eliminates virtually every pistol.
But hang on. Hang on. Let me pick you up on that. Dianne Feinstein is attacked by many Republicans as being somebody that wants to ban all guns. Do you know how many different types of gun she has permitted to remain in legal circulation in America under her new proposals?
No, I like this. Oh, so this is what this year the government's willing to permit.
Well,
and
why
then maybe next year they won't permit
but you've already
quite as many.
But you've already agreed.
In New York State.
But Mr. Speaker, you have already agreed with the decision to not permit Americans to have automatic firing weapons. What's the difference in terms of permission?
I don't think people... Okay, so now we're arguing over whether or not very many people's lives will be saved. And I'm challenging you and others.
No, I'm not actually. I'm asking you, how many more guns does an American civilian need other than 2,200, which would be permitted under this new assault weapons ban? How many more do they need to defend themselves, for goodness sake?
Look,
and what I can't understand is the difference between a killing... What is the difference between mass slaughter created by an automatic weapon and by a weapon, as we saw at Aurora or at Sandy Hook, that can kill 100 people in a minute? What is the difference?
Wait a second. First of all, you're making our case. Permitted. In other words, this year they're going to permit, and then next year they may not permit.
Mr. Speaker, there are 50 or more gun control rules which do not permit Americans to use certain types of weaponry already. So that permission decision has already been taken more than 50 times.
So if your primary... Piers, if your primary concern is saving lives,
yes,
you'd have to look at pistols, because pistols are the primary killers, and they're the primary killers in big cities, all of which have gun control laws.
But they are not, as you know, and
none of which work.
As you know, the primary preferred weapon of mass shooters, deranged young men.
Right.
There's been a pattern now of 5 deranged young men using AR-15s. Why do they use them? Because they're easy to use, and they create the most mass killing in the shortest possible time. That is why people like Dianne Feinstein and me want them removed from civilian arms. I see no difference in the ability to commit mass murder between an automatic weapon, which is banned, and you agree with that ban, and an AR-15, which can shoot 100 people dead or 20 children at Sandy Hook in less than a minute. I see no difference.
So where are you on pistols that have fairly large capacity? Where are you on the pistols that killed most of the people in Chicago, Piers?
My position
is it's okay if we kill them individually?
No,
You're saying,
let me make my
3, 4, 5 a night's
okay? My position very, very clear. What is happening in Chicago is completely outrageous, completely unacceptable. I think there's been a total breakdown in the effectiveness of the law enforcement, because when you compare it to New York, they have solved a lot of the gun problems in New York with very stringent gun control, and they've enforced it properly. It's like a Wild West situation in parts of Chicago. I've been there. I think it's outrageous. And I think the fact that 11 or 12,000 people die a year in America from gunfire, and a lot of that is from handguns used by criminals and gangsters, is disgraceful. And I think many of the other proposals...
Your real view? Isn't your real view that you would ban pistols if you could?
No, it wouldn't. What I would do...
Wouldn't you ban pistols if you could?
Let me explain what I would do. I would agree with Dianne Feinstein. It is the high-powered guns of any variety which can fire 30 or 40 or more rounds in less than a minute that can cause mass murder that would be my primary concern right now. And the AR-15 is a prime example of that.
Okay, right now. And the reason you find so many of us, and by the way, it's a substantial majority. I think the last time I saw 63% of the American people agree that the Second Amendment's actually there to protect us from tyranny. The reason you find so many of us very reluctant to go down this road is we believe each step down this road leads to the next step and the next step and the next step. And we actually think the Second Amendment is central to our liberties, not just something there for hunters, not something there for target practice, but actually there because the Founding Fathers remembered that when your army tried to defeat us, luckily our peasants weren't peasants, they were citizens, and as citizens they were in fact armed, and that's the only reason we were able to win the Revolutionary War.
And you honestly think the Founding Fathers sat there and thought, okay, automatic weapons are banned because they are very dangerous, but semi-automatics that can fire 100 bullets in a minute are not dangerous and they should be lawful?
I think the Founding Fathers would have found this entire debate strange because they actually believed in individual freedom, and they were very suspicious of big government. And they would find the idea that you're going to permit, to use the word you kept using, you're going to permit us to have a few liberties right now, was the antithesis of the American experience.
But you do agree with not permitting Americans to have automatic weapons?
I think that 50 caliber machine guns would be bizarre. And I'm happy to say that those rules seem to have worked fairly well.